I'm here today to talk about allyship. What is it and how can it positively impact your workplace? I'm Merryn and I head up the global HR team at Cintra Global. I am genuinely delighted to be here today to share my insights on how companies can genuinely embody allyship and align their HR policies and strategies. In both the UK and globally, this is an ever-growing topic of conversation and one that should really be at the forefront of our minds. It's truly become paramount for every organisation's success. I want to acknowledge today that I'm not here to speak on behalf of marginalised groups. I'm here to speak as an ally and talk about what we can do as allies. But first of all, what is allyship? Allyship is a critical component of equality, diversity and inclusion, EDI. It involves actively supporting and advocating for underrepresented groups and becoming a partner in their journey towards equity and inclusion. Allyship isn't about being a saviour. It's not about standing on stage telling people what they should be doing. It's about being a partner in their journey, and it's about standing alongside others, amplifying their voices and using our privilege to effect positive change. Allies recognise the systematic barriers and commit to taking action to create a truly equitable and inclusive environment. And to truly promote allyship in the workplace, organisations must create an environment where everyone feels safe to speak up, challenge biases and share their unique perspectives. Effective allies display certain characteristics. They show empathy, active listening, self-education and amplify marginalised voices. They ask difficult questions of themselves and acknowledge that they're along their path of learning and growth. Allies strive to understand the experience of others and use their privilege and influence to effect positive change. But what is ED&I? So, you've likely heard of it. I'm just going to break it down for anyone that isn't aware. So, equity refers to treating all individuals fairly, providing the resources they need to succeed, regardless of background or identity. Diversity represents the various identities, perspectives and experiences that make up our workforce, creating a rich and vibrant environment. Inclusion, on the other hand, goes beyond mere diversity. It's about ensuring that each individual feels valued, respected and able to contribute fully to the organisation. It's really important to note that people often use the terms equity and equality interchangeably, but they have distinct meanings when referring to social justice and inclusivity. Equality, which is what people tended to previously use as the terminology, refers to providing everyone with the same opportunities and resources, assuming that everyone starts from the same position. Equity, on the other hand, acknowledges that individuals have different starting points and provides resources and support based on their specific needs to ensure fairness. The terminology has also changed, where you might have previously called it DE&I, diversity, equity, or equality, and inclusion. So this has now evolved into the term EDI, which is what I'm using. The shift reflects a deeper understanding of the importance of equity in creating a truly inclusive environment, while diversity focuses on representation and inclusion emphasises a sense of belonging. Equity recognises that not everyone had equal access to opportunities and resources. And embracing ED&I not only aligns with ethical principles, this also brings numerous benefits to companies. These benefits include increased innovation, enhanced employee engagement and satisfaction, improved decision-making, and a broader range of perspectives that can drive your business's success. Despite its importance, achieving EDI in the workplace can be challenging due to various barriers. These barriers include unconscious bias, systematic discrimination, lack of representation at all levels, and insufficient support for marginalised groups. Overcoming these challenges requires a really proactive strategy and allyship from everyone within an organisation. So, allies, of course, play a crucial part in advancing those initiatives within your organisations. They challenge those biases, They promote inclusive behaviours and contribute to the dismantling of the systematic barriers. It's not a one-time act. It's an ongoing commitment to learning, growth, and action. You need to empower your staff to speak up and have their voices out there. Staff will sometimes be subject to conversations which use discriminatory terms and languages. You need to give them the courage that they can call that out and educate others around them. And the benefits of fostering it in the workplace are immense. Companies that promote allyship and EDI experience improved employee morale, increased productivity, and enhanced creativity and innovation. When employees feel supported and included, they are more engaged, loyal, and committed to the organisation's success. And moreover, diverse teams are proven to be more effective at problem solving and decision making, leading to better business outcomes. It's essential to recognise that fostering allyship isn't just the right thing to do ethically, but it also makes perfect business sense. As a baseline, we need to think about the legal implications of this, particularly if you're looking at a global scale. Employment laws and regulations vary massively across countries and regions and states. So it's important to comply with these laws, but it's not just about understanding the law and obeying the law. You need to go more deeply than that. So key considerations: look at your non-discrimination laws, equal employment laws, and pay equity laws. These tend to be the baselines of what you need to do in a country. As I say, you do need to go beyond that though, and I'll touch on training a little bit later during this talk. But legal compliance training is essential to ensure that employees understand their rights, responsibilities, and obligations. So make sure you're developing clear and comprehensive compliance policies that outline expectations, procedures, and consequences for non-compliance with legal requirements. Implement training programs that educate employees on relevant laws, regulations, and your company's policies. And cover topics such as anti-discrimination, data protection, harassment prevention, and reporting mechanisms. And really importantly, make sure that you are staying informed about changes in employment law and regulations across different jurisdictions, and update your policies and programs in accordance to that. If in doubt, speak to HR or legal. It's a really complex legal landscape, and it's incredibly important to get it right. But what we're talking about today is beyond this, and now I've set the scene, I want to talk about how you as companies can take proactive action and actually move beyond the lip service. I cannot emphasise this enough, but companies really need to move beyond the lip service. We see it all the time. You'll see job descriptions that say that they encourage candidates from a diverse background to apply, but what is the reality for those individuals? So as companies, we need to take tangible actions for EDI and allyship. And while statements and declarations are absolutely important, they hold little value without concrete efforts to back them up. So it's not enough to make empty statements or superficial initiatives. Genuine allyship involves taking concrete actions to create that truly inclusive environment. So tangible actions, what do? They demonstrate a genuine commitment to creating an inclusive workplace where everyone feels valued, respected, and empowered. These actions can look like implementing diversity hiring initiatives, providing ongoing education and training programs for underrepresented employees, promoting diverse leadership representation, and actively seeking feedback from marginalised groups within the organisation. And by translating those words into actions, companies can create a culture that embraces EDI and allyship, fostering a sense of belonging and driving real change for a more equitable and inclusive future. I've got some key strategies that I would really encourage individuals and companies to consider. Number one, education and training. This is the starting point, but they really are foundational to promoting allyship. It helps raise awareness, build empathy, and develop the necessary skills to be an effective ally. Companies should implement effective EDI training programs that educate employees on unconscious bias, privilege, and the experiences of marginalised groups. These Programmes should be tailored to local cultural contexts and encourage active participation. Companies can implement several strategies to provide these training programmes on allyship and EDI. And I don't mean everyone sitting in front of a PowerPoint and being told what to say and do. The more you can get people to interact and the more you can hear the voices of marginalised groups, the more effective this is going to be. So start with mandatory diversity and inclusion training. This is the basics. It is a critical component of fostering awareness, empathy and understanding among employees. It equips them with the necessary knowledge and skills to navigate an increasingly diverse workplace. It gives people confidence to speak up, and this is one of the hardest challenges to overcome. So those training programmes, they tend to cover a range of topics, looking at unconscious bias, cultural competence, inclusive language, microaggressions, and the importance of representation. They'll aim to challenge stereotypes, promote empathy, and develop inclusive behaviours. It can be conducted in various formats, as we all know, such as workshops, online modules, or a combination of both. Look at case studies, get some real examples and group discussions, which can utilise and enhance the learning and encourage participation. Examples which might be useful are having a module on unconscious bias. I don't think we're ever going to be in a world where there isn't an element of unconscious bias or assumption, but what we can do is talk about that and educate individuals. If you explore the examples where individuals may recognise their own biases and consider alternative perspectives, then they're going to gain an insight into that and learn how to mitigate that impact on their decision-making processes. The next area that you might want to consider is allyship workshops. These are designed to equip employees with the knowledge and tools to actively support and advocate for colleagues from underrepresented groups. So you can conduct workshops that focus specifically on allyship, providing employees with practical tools and strategies to support and advocate for their colleagues. They provide an understanding of what it actually means to be an ally, highlighting the importance of empathy. You notice there's a recurring theme here, active listening and speaking up against injustice. They emphasise the role that each individual can play in creating a supportive and inclusive environment. And through interactive activities, and again role-playing, I love a bit of role-play, participants practice allyship skills such as interrupting biased conversations, offering support and leveraging their privilege to create positive change. The scenario might be where participants are divided into groups and given real-life workplace situation to discuss. Perhaps terminology that you have come across that you might not think is appropriate. Use that as an opportunity to think about how you could change that in the future. Talk about strategies to support colleagues facing challenges based on their identities. Next is leadership development programmes. So these are very useful in fostering a culture of inclusivity from the top down. By equipping leaders with the knowledge and skills to drive EDI initiatives, organisations can create that systematic change. You should offer specialised training for managers and leaders within your organisation to equip them with the knowledge and skills to create inclusive teams and foster a culture of allyship. These programmes will include training on inclusive leadership behaviours, emphasising the role of leaders in setting the tone for an inclusive workplace culture. It will focus on promoting psychological safety, empowering diverse voices, and leading with empathy. A part of that, which I will touch on again shortly, is mentoring and sponsorship. These programmes will pair leaders with employees from underrepresented groups, managing underrepresented groups to provide guidance, support, and opportunities for growth. And mentors will help them navigate those organisational challenges, and sponsors will advocate for their mentees' advancement and visibility. The second strategy to consider beyond your training is inclusive hiring and promotion practices, which anyone in HR will hopefully be very familiar with. So these are essential for creating a diverse and equitable workforce. You can create recruitment strategies that emphasise diversity at all levels of an organisation. So some proactive things are diverse candidate sourcing. Actively seek out diverse candidates by leveraging diverse recruitment networks, attending job fairs that marginalised groups may be at, or underrepresented groups, and using inclusive language in job postings. Another area to consider is unbiased selection processes. Implement blind CV screening. There are so many platforms that can do this for you now. It removes any gender pronouns, names, photos, which some people still include on their CVs. Look at structured interviews with standardised questions and diverse interview panels to mitigate bias and ensure a fair evaluation. Essentially, encourage allyship in your decision-making processes, emphasising the value of diverse perspectives. That's what it comes down to. The third point is employee resource groups, ERGs. I don't know if anyone's come across them, but they are very, very useful. These are groups that are formed to cater for various underrepresented groups, such as LGBTQIA+ employees, women, people with disabilities, or individuals from different ethnic backgrounds. You can support these groups with resources, funding, and a platform to engage in dialogue, share experiences, and drive change. Touching again on the mentorship programs, establish those formal mentorship programs that pair employees from diverse backgrounds with mentors who can provide that guidance, support, and insights into navigating the organisation. The programs will foster a sense of belonging and help develop a pipeline of diverse talent. And sponsorship programs. These connect high potential employees from underrepresented groups with influential leaders within the organisation. Sponsors can advocate for their career advancement, provide opportunities, and help them overcome barriers. And lastly, but absolutely not least, measuring those initiatives, because this all means nothing if nothing actually changes. It's essential to assess the effectiveness of all these measures that you're implementing to ensure that you're actually driving meaningful progress in your ED&I efforts. To ensure that allyship initiatives have a lasting impact, it's crucial to establish clear metrics and evaluation frameworks. So consider what these KPIs are. You must establish KPIs that align with your overall EDI goals. They could include metrics such as increased representation of underrepresented groups in leadership positions. It could include improved employee engagement scores for marginalised employees or a reduction in the reports of microaggressions. Conduct regular surveys and feedback sessions. This is more than once a year feedback. This has to be ongoing. Seek feedback from employees to assess their perceptions of allyship within the organisation. These regular surveys and feedback sessions provide a vital role in gathering quantitative and qualitative data on employees' experiences, perceptions, and needs. They can be conducted anonymously to encourage honest responses, and I'd really encourage that. And then analyse the data and take action. So an in-depth analysis of the collected data helps identify trends, patterns, and methods and areas for improvement. This analysis can involve qualitative methods such as data aggregation and statistical analysis, as well as qualitative methods such as thematic coding of open-ended responses. The insights gained from gathering and analysing this data provides valuable information for decision-making and action planning. It is crucial to take action based on these findings, whether it's implemented targeted training programs, adjusting your policies or practices, or launching new initiatives to address identified gaps. This is ongoing. I cannot express this enough. It is continual learning for all of us, and we're not always going to get it right, but we have to learn from what we have done. By continually measuring, evaluating, and taking action, as organisations, we can foster a culture of accountability, track our progress, and drive meaningful change. So moving on to your HR strategies and policy alignment. We all need to think about this. This isn't just for HR professionals, because as businesses, we need to be thinking about bringing equity across all parts of the organisation. Ultimately, that's what your policies are reflecting. A strong strategy is the backbone of an organisation's success in the global and UK marketplace, and aligning your strategies and policies is critical for several reasons. You want to ensure consistency, so aligning that across all locations reinforces your organisation's commitment to equity and inclusion. You want to ensure fairness and avoidance of bias. A global approach helps mitigate bias and discrimination by providing clear guidelines and expectations for allyship and EDI. And employee experience. Where your strategies and policies are aligned, employees feel valued, supported, and engaged regardless of their geographical location. And by aligning your policies with the principles of allyship and EDI, you can enhance employee engagement, boost productivity, and attract top talent from diverse backgrounds. There are some really fantastic examples of this, so speak to your colleagues. For example, I recently spoke to a company, and one of the things that they've decided to do is to take the bank holidays. We all have a statutory entitlement to bank holidays in the UK, and allocate employees to be able to use up to 6 of them for different religious holidays rather than being on the standard days. These are fantastic initiatives that promote inclusivity around your organisation. So you need to align your HR policies. You need to be making sure you're using inclusive terminology across the board, not just in one country where you're required to do so. And each country may have its own norms and regulations regarding diversity and inclusion, but adapting your policies to suit those local requirements whilst maintaining your policy towards ED&I will strengthen your commitment to creating an inclusive workplace. The key considerations to take into place when looking at that: cultural awareness. Make sure you're recognising and respecting different cultures, norms, practices while ensuring allyship and EDI commitments. Leadership commitment. So secure leadership commitment has to come from the top down. Leaders must model inclusive behaviours and champion the importance of allyship in a global context. And employee engagement. Involve employees from different regions in shaping your strategies and policies. Seek input, listen to their experiences, and adapt strategies to address specific challenges. So the starting point, review your policies and revise where needed. As we strive to foster a diverse and inclusive workplace, it is vital to ensure that our policies align with the principles of allyship and EDI. By reviewing the policies, it allows us to assess the current state, identify gaps, and make necessary changes to foster inclusivity. So the first step is review what policies you have in place. Examine them, look through an EDI lens. Use HR resources to do this, or legal resources. As I say, this is complex. You're not going to get it right, but lean on the professionals. Identify any potential biases or inequities. Simple things like what terms are you using for gender. It becomes more difficult in some countries, so some countries there's a legal requirement to use certain gender terms, but what you can do is make sure your policies are reflecting a different approach to that. Evaluate whether your policies actively promote inclusion and eliminate barriers for underrepresented groups. So look for any potential bias or unintended consequences that may hinder equal treatment. Review your policy language to ensure it's inclusive, free from discriminatory language, and assess your policies to ensure they're accessible to all employees. For example, if you're in a workplace where you had a majority of people that English wasn't their first language, you need to be putting them in a different language. Don't just print your policy off in Calibri size 11 and expect everyone to be able to access this. It needs to be accessible for all individuals. So once those policies are assessed and you've identified those gaps and areas for improvement, get stakeholder feedback. So seek input from employees, particularly those from marginalised groups. Lean on your ERGs. Go to surveys, focus groups, or feedback sessions, because these individuals' perspectives and experiences will provide valuable insights into policy effectiveness. Don't assume we know what other people might be feeling. This is key. Never assume anything. We need to be learning and taking that feedback. Look at data analysis. So analyse your employee data, such as demographic information, retention rates, and promotion patterns. Identify any disparities or areas where policies may be falling short. Key part of that is promotion patterns. This is where you may need to ask really difficult questions of your business. Are we actively giving opportunities to individuals when it comes to promotion within an organisation? And best practices research. So stay informed about the industry best practices and benchmarks in allyship and EDI. Perfect example of this is, as I touched on at the beginning of this talk, is the change in terminology from DE&I and equality to equity. Identify innovative approaches that can be incorporated into your policy revisions. And include teams around the organisation. It's not just HR. Get legal involved, get diversity and inclusion representatives involved, and ensure that these are comprehensive perspectives so that you can get expertise in your policies. And then develop the training programs. This will familiarise employees with the revised policies and emphasise their role as employees in fostering an inclusive environment and promoting allyship. So, policy review and revision, if I haven't made it clear enough, should definitely be an ongoing process. You need to continually adapt to the changing needs and dynamics within the organisation and across the globe. Establish mechanisms for how you're going to do that. Look at the evaluation of your policy effectiveness, including feedback, data analysis, and monitoring of the outcomes and impact. And recognise that your policies may require further refinement over time. Apologies, everyone. So actively seek the feedback, measure outcomes, and be open to making the necessary adjustments to ensure policies align with your ED&I goals. And recognise and respect cultural nuances in different regions. Tailor your policies to still be culturally sensitive, leveraging local expertise, and strike the right balance between consistency and adaptation. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, particularly when you're looking at the global world. Establish those KPIs to measure the progress of your initiatives and hold leaders and managers accountable for meeting those goals and recognising and rewarding allyship behaviours. So, in conclusion, genuine allyship, it requires more than just words. It necessitates concrete actions that create equitable and inclusive workplaces. By understanding the legal implications, going beyond lip service, and aligning your policies and approach globally, you can foster a culture of allyship and EDI that positively impacts your employees and your organisation's success. As professionals, it is our responsibility to help guide our organisations in embodying allyship and fostering a culture of EDI. By fostering consistency, fairness, and engagement, organisations can promote allyship and ensure equal opportunities for all employees worldwide. We have to work together to create a truly inclusive workplace. So, thank you, Erin, for your time. This is a huge topic. I cannot do it justice in a very short talk, but if you have any questions or feedback, then I would love to speak to you, and I'll be around on the floor later. So thank you for your time, and thank you for listening.